This is Steve Stanulis, and you're listening to the Dave and Creech Show. Check it out.
This is the Dave and Creech Show, the only podcast where podcaster CJ Creech and actor Dave Sheridan come together to talk all things entertainment with your favorite entertainers. Want to ask our guests a question? Tweet them to @DaveSheridan or @CJCNOV88, and they may be asked our guests live on the show. We do have to ask you stay seated during the podcast because this ride is hilarious. Now here's your hosts, Dave and Creech.
Hey everybody, welcome out there to the Dave and Creech Show. Once again, it's me, one of your hosts, CJ Creech, and actually your only host today. This is a special episode, if I may say so myself. We are having a Thanksgiving Day episode, which is kind of different. I can't recall any Dave and Creech is actually falling on holidays. If there has been one, forgive me. It's been a long run. But yeah, guys, welcome to the show. It's going to be a great episode. We've got all sorts of good stuff. Unfortunately, as I mentioned in the intro, Dave Sheridan is not here, and he may show up at some point at the end of the show. We don't know. We are trying to get him on now. He is, once again, he's a little wrapped up right now, and it's not normally our recording time, so it's kind of, last minute. We're trying to get him on because, it's Thanksgiving. So we might get him on, we might get not. You'll have to wait till the end of the show and we'll see. Now, first off, thanks. If you're listening to this today, it is Thanksgiving Day. So thank you for spending some of your time, probably full of whatever you ate all day and tired of listening to your family. So you want to listen to me talk or just go to sleep to the sound of my voice. Either is completely fine. But I do want to thank you guys for spending a little bit of your time to come to the show today. And I will try to make this as interesting as possible, which isn't always the case with me. I know I've got the voice of, what was that guy? When Ben Stein's Money? Ben Stein, I believe was his name. I've got that kind of monotone voice with barely just a little bit of inflection. So, bear with me here. I'm literally just coming off a cold where I lost my voice, which is bad enough. So that's why we had to delay. Because originally we were going to do 2 podcasts in 1 week, but it's really hard when you want to talk and nothing comes out. I mean, I'm not the best at sign language either, at least not the non-vulgar sign language. So, short of doing some kind of really vulgar webcam for Dave and Creech, there really was no way I would have been able to record. And I love my co-host Dave Sheridan to death, but if I were to ask him to do a whole podcast by himself, I don't know if he could figure out his computer enough to do this. There is that generational gap here. I mean, luckily I will say he's had my back. I mean, you've heard some of the interviews that he went and did by himself, because I was unable to join. But then again, that was on a recorded line. It was already recording. So for him to do the whole podcast by himself, I don't think that would end too well. It'd probably be very entertaining, to be honest. But, maybe someday we can do that. But for today, it is me. I do have some special surprises. I want to do some shameless promoting of my stuff. But we'll get to that in a little bit later. Continuing on, I do want to let you know we do have a guest today. It's an interview that I did in October. I wish we could have got this out a little bit earlier, but it's still very relevant. It's with Steve Stanulis. He's an awesome guy. He's been in Sopranos, and he's a writer, producer, actor. He wears so many hats, and we talk about that in the interview. And even though we're not going to really, actually we don't really bring it up at all in the interview, he was also Kim Kardashian and Kanye West's bodyguard for a short period of time. You can find all that out online, because that's not our type of podcast. But before we get into his interview, and then we come back and go to a shameless promotion of some really cool things, I did want to update everybody who's been following my social medias. There was an incident that happened with my other co-host. And that's something that I've been promising that I'll tell on the next Creech and Frantz, which is my other show. However, I will reveal what happened exclusively on this week's Dave and Creech. I will reveal that after this interview, so stick around if you want to find out what Joe Franz did. What prank he played on me, and just how bad I've been suffering from it since then. Thank you again for joining us for the show. We do want to talk your career and promote what you've got right now with Clinton Road and everything. So I guess the easiest way or the quickest way is to go to the beginning. Now you were a now retired NYPD cop, and then you went to being a bodyguard, right?
Well, I work security. Bodyguard sounds like I should be 6'5", 280 pounds. More of a security because I was able to have a gun. I was a police officer. I worked security with a lot of celebrities in the 90s.
Yeah, and with those celebrities, is that how you were able to, that kind of helped you get into the acting business?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it was funny because besides being a cop at that time, I used to work at Chippendales, and actually, at the end of the night, I was dancing, and some dude was there, and he's like, I got some girls I want you to meet back at my pad. And I was like, yeah, all right, bro. And I went downstairs. I blew him off, and as we were closing, one of the guys came down to the dressing room and said, there's a guy waiting for you outside. So as I walked out, I said, dude, I'm a cop. so we would go back to his pad, and there was actually two girls there. We danced with him. He gave me like $2,000, which at that point was like unbelievable. And he said, by the way, I'm Leonardo DiCaprio's money manager. He lives with me. Would you be interested in working security? So I'm like, yeah, great. Give me a call. So he happened to call me the next day, and Leo was there, and I actually showed up late because I had to do a bachelorette party. And at that point, when Titanic broke, had no interest in the business. He was like one of the biggest stars in Hollywood, and I was, a Chippendale cop. And there was a weirdness with we had nothing in common. And at that time, I injured my knee. And he's like, oh, my God, I injured my knee on Basketball Diaries. You mind if I see your scar? And I pulled my pants down, and I had my G-string on. I says, well, you don't mind seeing my G-string. And that kind of broke the ice. And everybody was laughing. And then I kind of started working with him. And then kind of started meeting people, because it wasn't like wait for me. I kind of did whatever he did. But I just started meeting people on the way, and I started getting stuff without even wanting to do anything. I got a small role in the Replacements. And then the guy who introduced us said I'm getting indicted for laundering money, not laundering money, for misappropriation of funds. And all that access went away from me. Now I had the bug, and then I had to start like every other actor and start from square one again. How's that for a long-winded answer?
Hey, that's a great answer. I mean, it seems like for the longest time you've been wearing plenty of different hats.
Sure.
You've got the...
Sure, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of different things I've done in a period of time, but that's how... It's funny because I had no interest in this world. I kind of got thrust into it, and then by accident. And the rest, I guess, is history.
Yeah, and you've. I was checking out your IMDb page earlier, and you have quite a few movies. It's actually pretty impressive. You've got everything from Gangs in New York to Now Pronounce You Chuck and Larry, and I saw you also had a brief role in the Sopranos. Is there any personal highlights, maybe favorite roles that you've had a chance to, come on board with?
Sure. I mean, the biggest highlight of being in a huge production was actually working on The Interpreter opposite of Sean Penn, doing a scene with him, with Sidney Pollack directing. I mean, coming on set and, Sean Penn is somebody I've always looked up. I mean, I was not only somebody as an actor I admired, but somebody I was a fan of from Fast Times at Ridgemont High growing up. So to be opposite Sean Penn and Jeff Spicoli, while Sidney Pollack's, in the director's chair directing, it was pretty much what I would say would be one of my highlights, or if not the top highlight on a bigger film.
Did you ask him to say anything in his Spicoli voice?
No, I kind of let him be. I mean, he was very meticulous after every take, talking to Sidney, going back and forth with Sidney literally after every take. And then when we broke, he'd go outside and smoke. We had a lot of small talk, and the cool thing with this scene was it was actually shot in the UN, which I think was the first movie ever shot in the UN. So yeah, it was more small talk, but it was probably the coolest thing to date on a bigger film I got to do.
Right, and like you were saying earlier with the Chippendale Cop, now you are actor, writer, director, producer, still wearing all the many hats. What are some of the projects that you've currently got on the plate?
Well, we're doing we just had a film called The Networker just come out on every major platform, Netflix, Amazon Prime, iTunes, the whole gamut. That was a film I actually starred in with William Forsythe, Sean Young, Stephen Baldwin, Alicia Reiner, Jeremy Luke, which was a romantic comedy. So that just came out, which is cool. It's doing well from what I hear. We just wrapped on Clinton Road, which was something I directed with Richard Grieco. And we're just ready to announce, we just came out in People, we're doing a documentary called Wasted Talent, which is a documentary on Lilo Brancato. So these are the things that are like within the immediate as we speak.
Clinton Road is that's more of a horror movie, right?
Clinton Road is a horror movie, and the cool thing about Clinton Road, it's based on a real road. So if you Google Clinton Road, there's thousands and thousands of stories of things that happen there and sightings and what have you. So it's the same vein as Annabelle, in a sense where Annabelle is a spin-off of The Conjuring, which is based on a true story. So the cool thing about Clinton Road, not only do we have an amazing cast that you don't really see for a normal horror film, the script is amazing, and it's based on something that actually exists that you can go and actually drive to and experience yourself. So I think the whole niche of actually being able to go there and know it's real adds a lot of extra pop to the film.
For sure, yeah. The cast has Ice-T, Ace Young. It has quite a few big names in it. I did a little research on the road, and that's some of the stories on there, like you said, are just pretty insane. Yeah,
and again, not to sound hokey or anything, but if you go there at night, it's like 9, and obviously we had to scout it, and I had to scout it at night. We actually punked Richard on the road, but it's super. It's 10 miles almost, like 9.8 miles. It's 2 lanes. There's really nowhere to park. There's no street lights. It's pitch black. You can really feel like, again, maybe it's in your mind or what have you, but you could, knowing the stories, you could feel like we're as you drive down that road at night. It's hard to explain unless you experience it, but it's a pretty cool vibe you get. Now, whether it's because you know the stories or not, that's, I guess, for the person to determine. But it's actually pretty cool.
Yeah, I can imagine it. Probably, especially the more stories you hear, probably it makes it even more frightening going there. Now people can watch the movie and then be frightened even more when they actually get to the road.
Right, and again, I don't think the West Milford cops are going to be too happy, because if the movie thinks what I think it's going to do, every Friday and Saturday night, that would be like a hot spot for all the for all the people that love that genre to go check out if they haven't already.
For sure, and that's also Clinton Road is the first project for your recently created Chaos Productions, right?
Yes, all the other projects we came in through Stanulis Productions, but since we brought in so many different producers, we opened up a new production company called Chaos, which brought in more partners, and pretty happy that's Chaos's first big film, because I really, like I said, I'm pretty excited about the potential in it.
Oh, for sure, yeah. I mean, especially like you said with the cast and everything. I mean, it definitely has a lot of promise on its side.
Yeah, and again, I don't want to hype the movie too much, but it's most importantly, it's a smart script. It's well written. So again, the three ingredients I think that make a good movie are there. It's a good cast, recognizable cast, with some A-listers, like I see. It's smartly written, and it's based on something that exists. So I think that has all the ingredients for a cool horror flick.
Very true. And since it is, and we've been talking about the stories with Clinton Road, have you personally had any Clinton Road experiences?
The only thing we really experienced, again, because when you direct, there's so many people on the crew, and you're worried about getting shot, so I think you kind of not as receptive to what maybe could be there. But what we did find strange was a lot of batteries that were charged in full were dying pretty quickly, which was kind of unusual, because they were batteries that's supposed to last 8 hours, and we were switching batteries off the cameras, and fully charged batteries were lasting 45 minutes, if. So that was pretty unusual, because I've never seen that happen before. So that was probably the weirdest thing. Again, not super. I wish it was something more intense, but again, that's a big thing they talk about when there is energy or supernatural stuff. Is batteries get drained and stuff like that. So again, was it coincidence? I don't know, but that was probably the most unusual experience we had there on Clinton Road.
Obviously, our listeners are going to check out the films and everything else you've got going on. Where can they follow you? Do you have any social media channels that you'd like to promote?
Absolutely. I have by Stanulis, we have a Facebook fan page. We have a Stanulis Productions fan page. We have a Clinton Road fan page. I have a Instagram, which is at Steve Stanulis, as well as Twitter, which is at STV Stanulis. So please, I'd love to have more people come in and see what we're doing.
For sure. Well, I do want to thank you for chatting with me for a little bit this late time of night. Do appreciate it.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Oh, not a problem. You're welcome on any time. If you ever need anything to promote, just let us know.
We'll do, and we'll talk soon. Hope maybe when we open up, we'll see how we're doing.
All right, guys, welcome back. I hope you enjoyed that interview. Once again, Clinton Road, make sure you keep up with Steve Stanulis on his Instagram and Twitter to find out when you can see that in theaters, and just to keep up with his career. He's got a lot of films coming out that you're going to want to check out, so just make sure you give him a follow. And now we're going to go into the shameless promotion of the podcast, and this is really the last whole part of this show, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it's going to be the longest part. And before I do that, I do want to start by saying thank you to everybody listening, anybody who's ever tuned in, anybody who listened to just a little bit and decided it wasn't for them. It doesn't matter. Thank you sincerely for every one of you, because without any of you, I wouldn't have been able to do so many of the things that I've been able to do in this career, and still am able to do, and doing more in the future. And it's all because of you guys. And so I'm very thankful today, and I'm thankful because this has been a good year for me, for Dave and Creech, obviously, our co-host Dave Sheridan, and also my Creech and Frantz co-host Joe Frantz. They haven't been able to stick to the podcast schedule right now because they've been so busy doing their work. Dave starring in movies, and Franz has been working on finishing his book with Brandon Novak. So it's been crazy for us all, and I'm starting to get the more extras acting, and the first actually horror film that was officially released on DVD and is available on Amazon Prime and all that came out earlier this year, and I'm extremely thankful to have had that opportunity to go down to Georgia and film a little bit part due to Dave and Creech, and that's in Strip Club Massacre. So very thankful this year. And obviously I'm thankful for my daughter Lexi and my family and my friends, but on a business and professional level, I'm thankful for any and everybody who listens to this podcast, who's helped promote it, really, from the beginnings of Creech Questions and, my promoters, longtime promoters, Bells of the Dead, to former podcast sponsors, The Dead Connection, to going to Dave and Creech, and, every single guest we've had on any of my podcasts. It's only going to get better from here. And once we get all the schedules and everybody, Dave gets a chance to take a break after making all these movies, then, we'll be back to the weekly groove of things for Dave and Creech. And then, once Franz finishes the book, then he'll be back. So we'll be doing the once a month again. Because, guys, with Franz and I, we've got the next 2 episodes set. The topics, the subject, everything. We just got to get the time to do it. So that's going to be coming up very soon. So I'm extremely thankful for all and everything. But it looks like we are now being joined by a special guest, which isn't really a guest, seeing as he is the co-host of the Dave and Creech Show. Looks like I've got Dave Sheridan on the line. Let's see what's going on with Dave.
Hey, man. Sorry for the late response. I'm finally at a place where I can do this call in. So what are you doing for Thanksgiving, man? What are you doing?
I'm not doing anything today. I'm just working on the show because I'm actually going out of town on Sunday. I'm going to Myrtle Beach and having Thanksgiving then.
Nice.
Yeah, because my ex-wife has Lexi today, and I wanted to do Thanksgiving with the family, so I was just like, we'll do it this weekend. You can have her today. So.
Got it. Yeah, so you schedule it for Sunday, and are you just staying up there today, or are you going to be there for a little bit?
I'm just going to stay up there today. I'll actually be coming back down from Winston-Salem that Saturday. I'll be going to Winston-Salem on Saturday, and then I'll be coming to Myrtle Beach on Sunday. So I'll be...
Okay. Are you going from Winston-Salem directly to Myrtle Beach, or you got to go all the way to Charleston first?
I got to go to Charleston first.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
What are you doing up at Winston?
I'm going.
Cigarettes?
Yeah, I'm actually going to a WWE wrestling event.
Okay. And what event is it?
WWE Starrcade.
Arcade. And so break that down for me. It's been a while since I've watched any wrestling, and when I'm talking a while, I'm talking probably 40 years. Okay. So the Starrcade, I don't know, like, what are the other ones they do? Currently, is Monday Night Raw still on? Is Raw at all still on? What are the various, like, televised WWE shows that are on TV?
Well, yes, there's on TV itself. They still have Monday Night Raw and SmackDown that come on every week, and then they have the pay-per-views that are. There's like 14 or 16 of those. Some months have 2 pay-per-views per month. So it's, yep. But yeah, Monday Night Raw still comes on, even though I know you said you haven't watched in 40 years. So most of the wrestlers you know aren't wrestling anymore.
No, that's not true. That's not true. I bet you I can call is Undertaker wrestling at all?
No.
Okay, well maybe not then. I thought he might have been the last one.
He I think he technically retired earlier this year. So you're close.
Yeah. And Triple H doesn't wrestle anymore, huh?
He wrestles sparingly. He's actually now the COO of WWE in real life.
Yeah. Yeah, because he married the guy's daughter, right?
Yeah.
He married up.
He did.
Like to say.
He married into a nice, comfy position.
He is no dummy, man. So my family's just rolling past me, or my cousins, because I'm out in the car now. We're eating turkey. I'm at my aunt's house, and we're gonna have the standard stuff. You know what I mean? The problem is you always get there early. Like, I'm at my aunt's house way too early, and it's like, okay, I'm eating nuts and crackers and pretzels, and that's the stuff that gets you. If you just kind of held out for the basic turkey meal, it's all fairly healthy, and you're not going to eat that much of that. It's all the junk stuff you eat for the first 2 hours. It's all starchy food or processed flour, et cetera, et cetera.
Right. Yeah, I had Chinese food today.
Yeah.
As my Thanksgiving.
Right. I'm some young guy.
Yeah. It was the only place that was open.
Hey, Salem Wrestling Starrcade Saturday. Are you going to work it for a podcast or something? Are you shooting it, or you're just going to go and just enjoy it?
I'm just going to enjoy it as a fan. I haven't been to a wrestling event in a couple of years, so I figured with the whole nostalgia thing, I was like, I'm gonna go check it out.
Yeah, and man, we got to do a podcast probably tomorrow or Saturday. We got so much to go over. First of all, we could talk for hours about all this, the trap doors of sexual harassment and sexual. There's another word they're using now that's because they can't say harass. I'm going to explain the difference between harassment and the other word they're using, and there's sexual misconduct. There's another word that a lot of them are getting sort of trapped into, which is, everyone's like, oh, blah, 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 it's really bad. But it is, I wouldn't say it's bad. It might be wrong, but it's so light. You know what I mean? It's like the ones where it said like, oh, he hugged me uncomfortably too long. You know what I mean? Like, that's we're going a little too far. You know what I'm saying? I feel like we're going to discuss that. Where's that line? Where do you draw that line of completely destroying someone's career?
And we also had, one of our podcast co-hosts finally started coming out and naming names as well. Or not co-hosts, I believe one of our podcast guests, Corey Feldman, was dropping names as well.
Yeah, and Corey, and that's the thing. Corey's been on record about that for years. 30 years or more. You know what I'm saying? So, here's a guy walking a dog. wearing an oxygen tank. The dog's not. The guy is. It's like an older guy walking a dog, but he's got the oxygen tank on. So should have walked the dog a little bit earlier, maybe 20 years earlier, get a little exercise. Now he's got the oxygen tank. I would like to see him walking a dog. He's got the oxygen tank, and the dog has one of those like back wheels. You know that you ever see the dog with the two front feet, but then they have their back legs up on wheels, and they're kind of like a doggy wheelchair. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes, yeah, like when they get injured.
Yeah. If a guy was walking a dog with back wheels or dog legs, he had oxygen. The dog had oxygen. The dog had a vest that said service dog, but he's like barely able to service the guy because, you know, they're both like, and maybe the dog was getting led by another dog that was the service dog. Because it was the service dog for the dog that's the service dog for the guy. He can't really service the guy anymore, so he's got his own service dog. That would be the chain of events that I would like to see.
Right?
That makes the world interesting to me.
It's a fascinating.
Yeah, we got to.
Sure.
Yeah, we got to go over that. We got to talk about that stuff. There's something else. Walking Dead is now 4 or 5 episodes in, right?
Yep,
So
nothing's really happened.
We got to do a sort of mid-series catch up on that and like give it a report card and what we're thinking. I think it's pretty good so far, in my opinion. A lot of gunfighting though.
Yeah, a lot of missing. It's like
a lot of missing.
It's like these people become the future stormtroopers.
Somehow they've managed to survive 7 years of the apocalypse, pinpoint nailing the shooting zombies in the head. That's like basically having 7 years of target practice, and then all of a sudden the war starts and you can't hit a thing. You're just like, aren't we aiming for the cars? I thought we were shooting cars. What the hell's going on? And it was just like, that's the only thing I would say is they could have spent a little more money on the little like sparks that, when the cars get hit and stuff. They literally got like the effects DVD that you can buy for like $49 and pop that. You know what I mean? I have those effects on my computer and they're like so easy to use. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
All those squid hits and stuff like that they're just like, they're sitting on top of the cars and stuff way too much. They didn't opaque them. They didn't try to blend them in. They didn't color correct them. Like for instance, if it's daylight, you got to color correct it and make it a little less obvious. In the daytime, the spark is not as bright as the spark at nighttime. And when they shoot those things, they shoot it with the lights. It's against black, when they capture them. So the image that you're seeing is a night spark, not a day spark, and they need to adjust that, So those are just variables. I feel like they're just dropping them in. And of course, when a spark happens on a car, a bullet hits a car, there should be a mark left on the car, right? You can't have a bullet hit a car and there's no mark.
Absolutely. There's nothing. There's there's nothing. It just looks like nothing happened to the car.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I'm not going to, we can get into that when we do a catch up on Walking Dead. Will be a future episode, a catch up on everything from Kevin Spacey to Harvey Weinstein to Jeffrey Tambor to any other middle-aged white guy that we can figure out that's not named Dave Sheridan, who hasn't been named yet. Hello, but not me. And I tell you why? Because I'm good-looking, and the women are happy when I leave. That's why. There's no harassment because they are fulfilled. They are fulfilled. Creech, have a good Thanksgiving on Sunday, okay?
All right. I'm going to try my best.
Safe. You travel safe, enjoy your wrestling, say hi to the family, and I'm going to go have my Thanksgiving. I want to tell everyone out there that's listening, have a great Thanksgiving, have a great holiday coming up. We've got Christmas and New Year's just around the corner, so then 2018 is going to be a good year. Got a lot of great stuff happening, and we've got a lot of interesting podcasts coming up. Creech you just texted me about a guest that we're going to get in December. I'm real excited about talking about, but we're going to leave that as a surprise until we do it, right? So
yeah, absolutely.
All righty, Roo. And I might have something cooking too. Might have something cooking in January. One of our biggest guests ever that I will definitely go out of my way to get if this thing works out. I'm going to let you know about that. All right. With that said, adios. Have a good one, man.
You too, man. All right. That was Dave Sheridan, everybody. And now we've got another surprise. My Creech and Frantz co-host, Joe Frantz, is here. He's stopping by just to let everybody out there and all the listeners know what he is thankful for this Thanksgiving.
Hello, I'm Joe Frantz, the depraved filmmaker credited for doing my part in bringing such classics as the CKY video series, Haggard the Movie, and the Jackass film series to life. On this Thanksgiving Day, I'm thankful for friends, family, love, beautiful memories, and the Dave and Creech Show. God bless America.
We're going to go a little bit from the heartfelt to a little bit of the crazy. Now, if you remember, I promised I would reveal something at the beginning of this podcast about what Joe Frantz did. Like, how did he prank me? You know, because you just listen to him right there, and it's like, oh, Joe Frantz is such the nicest guy in the world, right? He would never do anything to you know, permanently damage his co-host's brain forever, right? Wrong. Okay, so I can't remember the name of the hurricane right now. I want to say Matthew, but I think that was last year. But anyways, you know, obviously, living in the South, Hurricane Central, we get it every year. So usually, we don't actually even go anywhere, you know, because we're just used to riding it out. But this last one looked a little bad until it veered at the last second and went to Florida instead. But just to be safe, I wound up going to my sister's house, who lives a little further inland than I do, and so I assumed, you know, okay, she lives further inland, so it shouldn't be as bad weather-wise there. And, you know, I'm there the first night, I'm making dinner, I get a text from Frantz that's basically something along the lines of, new projected path for Hurricane so-and-so, click here. And I was thinking, you know what, that's really good of my co-host for my podcast. And I was thinking, you know what, that's pretty awesome of my podcast co-host. I hadn't had a chance to check the weather yet. Look at him, he is sending me weather updates. That's awesome. So, I click it, and it's not a forecast of a hurricane. It is a picture of the biggest, blackest penis I've ever seen in my life, like monsterdong.com, and it wasn't actually listed. Like when you see a website clickable link, usually you can tell what the link is by that. No, it didn't tell you that before you clicked it. So I clicked it, and I have this eye full of dick in my face, and it pretty much scarred me forever. And you know what? And now I don't trust Frantz. And it actually got to the point that about a month ago now, he tried to get me back again. He tried to get me with a dick again. And what happened was he sent me this text that said, "Hey brother, I got a new watch, and I'm having some troubles setting it. I know we're in the same time zone, so what time do you currently have?" And from that point on, when I got that, I was like, okay, he can't use his phone, he can't use a laptop, there's no clock anywhere near him. I don't think I think something's fishy with that. You get what I'm saying? So, but I oblige him. I'm like, well, hey, we're in the same time zone, so the time is blah, blah, blah. And he sent a video next, and he's like, can you check this out? And let me know if I said it right. And right then, warning bells are going off, because I'm like, what? Why would he need me to check the time? He can easily look for himself. But I was like, whatever, maybe he's, he's not that old, but he's older than me, so maybe he just needs a little help. I press play for a second, and, you see a watch, and then it starts to pan, and I immediately stop. And in that 1 second of panning, that was all I needed to know that I needed to stop that video. Because, once it started panning, I realized the watch was not on an arm, if you get my drift. It was on another appendage, and I didn't want to see the end of it. And, you know, to this day, I don't know. I didn't finish the video, and I don't know whose it was. I don't know if Frantz sent a video of his own, but it was just, he tried to get me again. And you know what? I am, like, so paranoid at this point that when I go up to the Philly to stay with him and do some interviews for Creech and Frantz, I'm going to be sleeping with one eye open, you know, because this guy, I don't know where it's coming from next, because he's good. He's good at this. He's really good. And, yeah, I don't want to be pranked. I'm going to have to lock doors and, you know, make sure there's no video camera equipment nearby, because apparently I'm susceptible to pranks, and now Frantz is going to just nail me hard on it, which just sounds just a poor choice of words right there. So I do apologize for that as well. And I apologize too, because this, for those listening who may be offended by my usage of words here, because usually I'm not the vulgar one in these podcasts, and this was going a relatively PG, maybe PG-13 podcast before then, but then the dick came out, and you know, I had to tell you about it. And you know, if it wouldn't get me banned and probably kicked off of social media, for the most part, I would share my pain with you guys. I would willingly share what the photo that he sent me that got me with the hurricane. I just have to edit out Franz's number and a snapshot. But yeah, I don't want to be kicked off social media. But you know what? A little bit of my pain can now be yours if you just envision it. Just envision a guy who looks probably built-wise like Debo from the Friday movie, and just completely stark naked with his wiener just all the way down, basically almost to his ankles. It's disturbing and scary. And I hope to never, ever experience it again. Now, with that being said, and that horrible memory and image still in my mind and now in yours, I'm going to give the Dave and Creech listeners a chance. You know, Frantz and myself, if you haven't already, check out the Creech and Frantz show. Dave and Creech, as you can see, is mostly more news and TV with a celebrity interview. But Creech and Frantz will occasionally have interviews with people from the CKY and Jackass universe. But also, more importantly, it's a lot more straight comedy-oriented, based around a subject. Now, there's 2 episodes currently up. There's one based on the films of Kurt Russell, and there's another one on our funniest movie theater experiences. And I've gotten a lot of positive feedback. Everybody really loved and thought the movie theater experiences episode was one of the most hilarious ones yet. And what I would suggest is, after you're done with this, make sure you go check it out. It's on our page. If you're listening to the podcast, just look up Creech and Frantz #2 and give it a listen. We think you'll like it, and you'll be wanting to come back, because the next one, the next Creech and Frantz episode, is going to be about awkward celebrity encounters that Joe Frantz and myself has had in our experiences working with celebrities. Now, for the Creech and Frantz listeners that may still be listening, I'm going to replay a funny story from Joe Frantz's past to end this podcast. Basically, Joe Frantz is describing an awkward date that he had, probably one of his most awkward dates, that just went horribly, horribly wrong. And for the Dave and Creech listeners who've heard it before, you can feel free to end the podcast now. Or if you want to listen to it, you can listen to it and kind of get an idea of what Creech and Frantz sounds like. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and let the Creech and Frantz intro hit. and then it'll play that Dave and Creech exclusive with Joe Frantz. So from here on out, guys, make sure you like, subscribe, share our podcast. We're continuing to grow, but we do need your help. So if you like the podcast, share it, send it to a friend, subscribe. And also you can hit us all up on Twitter. I'm at CJCNOV88. Dave Sheridan's at Dave Sheridan, and Joe Frantz is at Joe Frantz Rules. Make sure you check out more episodes of The Dave and Creech Show here on Spreaker and iTunes, and also make sure you check out Creech and Frantz on Spreaker and iTunes. We've got great guests coming up, so you're not going to want to miss it. One of the ones that we're working on for Creech and Frantz is we are working on Phil Margera. And for Dave and Creech, we've got quite a few guests coming up too. We've got Adolfo Duarte from Days of the Dead, James Frazier from Walker Stalker Con and the Walker Stalkers podcast, John Hennigan, who is also a professional wrestler who's gone by the names of Johnny Mundo in Lucha Underground, Johnny Impact currently in Impact Wrestling, and John Morrison in WWE. And we've got the special one that Dave was talking about, plus who knows, I don't even know what his bombshell guest announcement, biggest one yet, is. And the only way to find that out is to keep listening to the Dave and Creech Show. So that's all for me here. Let's let Creech and Frantz take you away.
And now, what you are about to experience is possibly the most detrimental program in broadcast history. And so, it is with great privilege and sense of duty to humanity that I present The Creech and Frantz Show, with your hosts, CJ Creech and Joe Frantz.
I thought it might be fun because it's weird. Sometimes you do these things and you run out of stuff to talk about, but I thought it might be funny if we each told an embarrassing story about a relationship.
Okay.
You go first.
I go first? Okay.
Yeah. I'll go first while you think about it. I got a good one. So there was a bar up the street from my house, and there was this girl bartender, and I'm very, it's weird, like I'm a really good conversationalist, but I'm very shy around the women. I'm not a type of dude that goes around, like, hitting on girls. I just don't do it. It's weird, like I got this one friend, and he's, like, short, he's kind of dumpy, he's kind of heavy, I'm not going to say his name. He doesn't have a good job. He doesn't have a car. He's always with beautiful women. And so I was like, dude, how do you do it? He goes, it's easy. Whenever I see a beautiful girl, I'll go up and I'll say, excuse me, I notice you and you're extremely beautiful and I want to know if I could take you to coffee sometime. And I was like, you do that? And he's like, yeah. I said, well, what's the response? He goes, 95% of the time they say no. But 5% of the time they say yes. And I said, how can you do that? Like, it's, I don't know, that's foreign to me. I don't have what you refer to as game. I'm not a player. You know what I mean? So, like, I just don't go around hitting on girls, dude. It's just not, if it works out, it works out, but it's just not in my DNA. So, in the bar, up the street from my house, there was this beautiful bartender, and I had the biggest crush on this girl. So, I'm not going to ask out the fucking bartender. It's not, and even if I did, if she went out with me, I would be grossed out because I wouldn't want to date a girl who would go out with some random dude that asks her out. It's the weirdest philosophy. Maybe I'm full of phobias and faux pas and all kinds of strange phobias or what have you. Maybe I'm very defensive, but it's like Groucho Marx said, I would never want to go to a party that would have me as a guest. So I totally had a crush on this girl. One day she's working the bar. She gets off work. She sits down next to me and we start hitting it off. I'm like, oh my God, this is so cool. I've been dreaming about this girl, And I had this drink that I drink. It's called a michelada. I started drinking them when I spent a lot of time in Mexico City. What a michelada is, it's a Corona poured over ice with a lot of hot sauce in it. So I'm drinking it, and the hot sauce that was at the bar must have been spoiled. And plus I didn't eat all day. I forgot I didn't eat all day. So now my stomach is grumbling. And I realized and I'm about to shit myself inside out. So I excuse myself. I walk to the bathroom, and I don't want to sit down on the toilet because it's a bar. So I bend over halfway, and everything splatters all over the wall, right? So now I'm like, oh my God, there's no way this is happening. So it's a unisex bathroom. So I'm taking toilet paper and toilet seat covers and tampons, and I'm trying to get it off the wall. It's smearing all over. So it's a tile wall, and it's doing nothing to actually soak up and absorb what has splattered everywhere, right? It's smearing it. So now the bathroom looks like a monkey's cage. And so, but in the meantime, I have to clean this up so fast because I don't want her to know, like, I don't want the next person to be waiting in line when I get out of it, because they're going to walk into what looks like a monkey's cage and they're going to say, oh my God, and then everyone will know. So I had to quick get out of there as fast as possible. I sit down for 3 minutes, and when the next person walked into the bathroom, I was like, all right, I got to go. I'm getting tired. I got up, left, and I never talked to her again. Well, now, I don't know if she actually knew I was the one that did it, or if she ever found out, or if anyone said anything. But I wasn't about to stick around to find out. And that is the most embarrassing Joe Frantz story in the world.
Shut up and sit down.
Thank you for listening to the Dave and Creech Show. The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are solely those of Dave and CJ. These views and opinions do not necessarily represent those of Creech Creative Productions or any of its affiliates.